Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, then please do not continue to listen until after you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. We are breaking up February. Well, I guess we kind of did that last week, but anyways, I digress. By doing Come Play, which is a movie that apparently came out last year, and we just saw it and was like, oh, this. We found the trailer and we're like, oh, this looks really cool, and so we decided to watch it. But anyways, off to tea. I actually made the effort to do brutalities, and I'm doing the painting the white one to Earl Grey. I think that's, or painting, yeah. I know it's a song, so I'm trying to not mess up the song, but I'm like, oh man, I don't know this song. I'm going to mess it up. And of course I do.
It's fine. And I just burned the crap out of my mouth with Bentley's Earl Grey.
So, thank you, Bentley's.
I mean, that's kind of my bad for using that setting for the water. But it's all good. This is fine. It's fine. Let's get to the summary.
So, Come Play is this autistic kid who is nonverbal, uses electronics to communicate, and his dad gives him a tablet that is from the Lost and Found. And they find out that this mysterious creature is trying to use these electronic devices to break into our world and essentially bring the kid back to the monster's world forever. And as far as the entertainment goes, this was one of those movies that as soon as it was over, I'm like, I want to watch it again. And it's kind of expensive on Amazon, so I haven't actually bought it. But yeah, this is a keeper for me. It's just like, it's so, the concept is a lot more interesting, because there's so many movies that's like, oh, a monster's trying to get us. But with the kid being autistic and nonverbal, it just adds a lot more, it creates an opportunity for a lot more character development, and then them focusing on like the situation with family. But man, I don't think this is quite an 8 for me, but this is a solid 7.5. A solid 7.5.
I actually would give it an 8 personally. It's a really interesting story, and yeah, it's this kind of thing has been done before, but it hasn't really been done this way.
Yeah.
We almost never see an autistic character in movies like this, let alone as the main character.
Yeah.
And that was a very bold choice, but it worked.
Yeah.
It really worked. You could tell, and honestly, the kid did a great job. I'm not sure if he's actually autistic or not, but he did a really, really good job in that role with how he can't really communicate. It's really difficult for him. He's trying. You can tell he's really, really trying to tell people what's going on, but he can't. And he's trying to use the electronics and all, but he's scared of the electronics because it's doing creepy things.
Yeah.
The other kids were actually pretty good too. You kind of hate them at first.
Yeah. But then they grow on you. Yeah.
But they do get better and they change and develop. And I think a lot of it came from hurt and from their backstory and from ignorance. They just didn't understand. So once they learned that everything was fine and this is just how he communicates and there's nothing really wrong with him, he's just a little different, then they start to accept him more and want to be his friends and all. So it's a really heartwarming story. There's a lot more depth than I really expected with it.
Yeah, for sure.
The ending is a little bittersweet, but I do appreciate that they didn't show the mom's face at the end. That would have just been terrifying, I feel like. They just did a lot of things with their cinematography that really helped the film.
Mm-hmm.
And they did make a lot of bold choices, but they ended up really working. There were some legitimate creepy scenes. There weren't too many jump scares. Like, some of them were expected and kind of needed and were acceptable, but they didn't rely solely on it.
Yeah.
And that's rare, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and going back to the character development, it's like going back to the kids, like so many horror movies are like, oh, those are the bullies and they're going to stay the bullies and that's it. But there's actually growth, like normal people. And then the dynamic with the parents, and like especially since they're going through the divorce, but then they kind of reconnected, and then with the mother then being taken, and then at the end when the father was like so touched by seeing the mom again. And I don't know, it's just they did it, they were on point. I kind of like, on the one hand, I would love to have known a little bit more about Larry the monster. But at the same time, I think it worked to the movie's benefit, because since you didn't really know exactly how he operated, what he wanted and stuff like that, and the movie slowly revealed it, I think that really strengthened the film in the end, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a hidden gem, this movie. Watching the preview and all, I really didn't expect that much out of the movie. It looked interesting, and it looked like it could have some creep factor here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't expecting it to be near as good as it turned out to be.
Yeah, for sure.
So their animation could use a little bit of work. I feel like it was a little bit lower budget than I would have liked, but
That's kind
has
of,
their limitations.
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's not like this one was, announced at the box office or anything. So for what it turned out to be, they did an amazing job.
And to be fair, though, since there are quite a few parts where you just see bits and pieces of the monster, I think it would have been reasonable for them to use practical effects for those. Like, maybe use CG for like the full. But it's like, even that is like, there's not really many times that you see the monster like fully. So it's like, in cases where there's a lot of movement and you see him like full, his full body, fine, use CG, but in like just a hand like reaching out or whatever, I think it would have been reasonable to assume that it'd be okay to use that with special effects.
Yeah.
But
I think they didn't use special effects because if they tried to use like a person's hand, the monster was very, very thin and spindly and bony, and I think that would have been difficult to convey if they tried to like use some kind of glove or prosthetics.
I was picturing more like an animatronic hand or something. Yeah, more than a
those
actual
can
hand.
be expensive though, so I get it. Again, I do wish that they had done something of that nature as well in some scenes, but I think it was a good call that they didn't always show the monster.
Yes, yeah, that would have.
Because that, we've said it before, that usually like kills the mood for the movie. Like, once you see it, you're like, oh, it's not that bad, or oh, that looks dumb. But this one, when you do see it, it looks really creepy. They did a good job there. They really did. And seeing just pieces, just like the hand coming out and like, come play. Like, No, I'm good. I'm good, bro. You stay over there.
And I am kind of curious if I really don't know much history on this movie or the background of it, but I wonder because there was a scary short where I think we actually did it in one of our videos that we posted on YouTube, but where this girl is doing filters and then in the background. So I wonder if they took inspiration from that or it just so happened, there's so many I mean, it just seems like a natural fear to be like, oh, what if I'm doing a filter and an extra face pops up? So I don't think that it's not possible that they didn't make up that idea themselves, but I am kind of curious if they saw that video or a video like that and took inspiration from it.
It was a really creepy scene, though. We really
Oh, it gives you goosebumps.
Really freaked us out. We were both like, no, put it down.
We're like, close the closet, and just lock it. Just you don't need those clothes anymore.
Nope. Never need to go in that closet again, ever, for any reason.
But yeah, before we move on to realism, I definitely recommend watching this movie. It's a good one. Oh, yes. It's a good one.
Absolutely. I will definitely be watching it again. There's a lot to digest in this story with the character relationships and the monster itself.
Yeah.
And the angles that they use for everything, so they don't necessarily show the monster all the time. It's really good.
Yeah. Really and good. I was kind of thinking, since the monster is supposed to represent loneliness, I think it's particularly powerful that they have the monster trying to kidnap or take an autistic child, because I mean that's a level of loneliness that not a lot of people can understand. It's like not that he didn't have a lot of, a good relationship with his parents or that he wasn't given the attention he needed, but the fact that he had difficulty connecting with other people because he connects in a different way.
And kids can be mean and they don't necessarily understand that. Toward the beginning in class, one of the kids who apparently was his friend before, and then they had an issue come up and suddenly they weren't allowed to hang out or anything. They weren't friends anymore. So he was feeling hurt from that. He asked the teacher, why does he get to have the phone in class? And the teacher tried to tell him that, he did it in a bad way. The teacher did. I feel like he could have said it in a better way. But it was because that's the way he communicates.
Yeah.
So they just don't understand that some other kids are different and they may have to communicate in different ways.
Yeah, and in a way, having people not understand how you communicate could also additionally make it even lonelier, especially if you're getting bullied for something that was completely not your fault. And I don't know. I thought that my cat is trying to get in. I'm going to ignore her. But anyways, I just hear bang, bang, bang. But anyways, I think, we've said it again and again. Horror is supposed to represent some of our fears or the darkest parts of humanity. And I feel like this monster was a very different type of monster, but a very good representation of loneliness and how someone who's on the spectrum might feel, especially someone in the extreme parts of the spectrum where it's a lot more difficult for them to communicate. But I don't know. I thought it was awesome. But anyways.
Absolutely. I'd love to see more movies like this. This was really well done.
Yes. And if anything, it also is, because the child is the main character, it kind of puts yourself in their shoes. and it gives you a different form of understanding than what you would get if the kid was like a side character. The fact that the movie focused on him and the dynamics and stuff like that, I think made it a lot more impactful for sure.
Absolutely.
But anyways, realism. Oh boy.
We gotta suspend reality for a little bit
From the monster.
to accept that there's a monster coming through screens.
Yes. So, I don't know. As far as I will be honest and say, I'm not too familiar with, like, I have a general understanding of autism, and I have met people that are on the spectrum. So it's like I kind of have a vague idea, but I'm not going to kid myself and say I have a deep understanding of it. But as far as I saw with like the realistic dynamics of relationships, the growth that people had, the way that they portrayed autism, I mean, I think like a 7, at least a 7 would be reasonable. And or like the mom lying for or kind of speaking for the child and being like, I don't want to be friends with, or he doesn't want to be friends with this kid anymore because she was trying to protect him and stuff like that. But yeah, I think a 7 is probably what I'm going to go with.
I give it a tentative 6, maybe closer to a 5.5. I don't have a deep understanding of autism. I do have a cousin whose child is nonverbal, so I have been around it on occasion, but I definitely don't have like a deep understanding of it. So the relationships in and of themselves I feel are really well done. And there's a lot of really good development there and a lot of understanding in the movie itself that is really well done. But I feel like in a few of the scenes, the reactions are not really what would happen.
That's fair.
There are certain scenes that I feel like it definitely would have been different. Just especially with for example, when the autistic kid Oliver is spinning around with the tablet with the filter, creepy scene, super creepy scene. I feel like he wouldn't have continued for as long as he did without throwing a fit or at least closing the closet door or something of that nature. I don't know. It's not quite there for realism for me.
I feel like the reactions for the most part are pretty reasonable because everybody reacts differently. But yeah, I do see what you're saying, and that's why on mine I felt like it ticked from a 10 to a 7. But maybe okay. Whenever you rate things, do you start from the bottom up or do you think from the top down?
I start from about the middle and go up or down.
Okay.
As needed.
Because I feel like that would also impact our difference in ratings.
Probably a little bit. It is a really good movie, really well done, and for the most part, it's definitely believable. There are just certain things that I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah, I know some of the reactions from the parents. Like the mother, I felt like her reactions were kind of extreme. Like she kind of believed that there is a monster a little bit too quickly. And I understand that she was like witnessing some of the stuff, but it's like that would not be my my first conclusion.
Well, she's kind of talking to it and all a little soon, but it is kind of hard to to dispute it after the light bulb scene.
That was kind of funny, though, to be fair. It's like, oh, look, he helped you screw in the light bulbs.
I was like, well, that's helpful. Creepy, but helpful.
I love how in that scene, too, we were, like, bitching the whole time. It was like, why are you using incandescent? You should be using LEDs.
Yes, that, honestly, that is why I took another point off, because this is 2021. And yes, this came out last year, but it's the 21st century. Like, why aren't you getting away from the incandescent bulbs? Why? I mean, they're not even CFL, guys. They're not LEDs or CFLs even. They're the lowest of the low bulbs. And they're the least efficient.
Yeah. It's like they might be the cheapest, but it's like LEDs are a lot cheaper than they used to be.
They're a lot more affordable now. They use a fraction of the energy that the original light bulbs used, so they'd be better on your energy bill. And they don't burn hot. So if your kid happens to touch it, like on the bulb part, yeah, it's going to be warm, but it's not going to like burn them immediately.
Yeah.
So,
My cat just
it's a win all around. It'll be a little bit more expensive starting out to replace them, but like as a bulb burns out, replace it with an LED.
Yeah.
And you're good. Because those other bulbs, yeah, they're cheaper to get initially, but they burn out much, much quicker. So you're going to spend a lot more in the long run, not just from an energy bill standpoint, but from the bulbs themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, but some people don't care. But okay, so I'm kind of, I will modify my rating. Well, I know, but now I'm like, man, a 7 is kind of high. I don't know. I'll do a 6.5. I feel better with the 6.5.
Either way, it's really well done. It's definitely worth a watch, guys.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it already, go watch it. This is truly a hidden gem. I hadn't heard it advertised or seen a trailer before then or anything.
Yeah.
I saw it on one of our streaming services that automatically has stuff loaded onto it, and it happened to have a trailer, and the description sounded interesting, so I waited for Alyssa, and we watched the trailer, and immediately we're like, okay, yeah, we need to see this.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like, and out of the horror community, because I don't know how well you keep up with the horror community, but it's like I haven't really seen this mentioned at all.
Not at all.
This one should not go to the wayside. Like, it needs attention. It's good.
It definitely does. And I want to see more movies like this with main characters that have something of this nature. That way you can get more information and see it from their point of view a little more, and maybe get a better understanding of what they're going through. So it was interesting in that way as well. Not just for the horror aspect, which was well done.
Mm-hmm.
Bravo. But just to see this different perspective.
Yeah.
It was new and different and appreciated. So more, please.
Yeah, and that, you mentioning that makes me think of the one movie where there's like intruders and she's blind, and
there's been a few. There's been a couple where the main character is blind, and there's intruders, and there's been another movie called Hush where she was deaf.
Yes. And then there's another one that covered mental illness where she had, is it agoraphobia, where you're afraid to go out? That, oh man.
That one was good too.
Yeah.
So
we need to cover more of those.
Try to touch on a few of these kinds of movies because they really are interesting to see from someone else's point of view, or experience it rather if they can't see. But it's different.
Yeah.
And we need a little bit of different every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important because it kind of reminds us to take our view outside of ourselves and realize that we're all living this life, but we're not experiencing it the same.
Mhm.
So.
It really helps to broaden your views. And movies are a way to do that, to see things from a different perspective, experience things how others might experience it. Yeah, you might act differently in certain situations, but you also might have access to things that others don't.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a good way to explore different aspects of life like that in a safe environment.
Yes, for sure. But
And for now, socially distanced.
yes. Yep. Almost there, guys. Hopefully. We'll see.
I see a light.
At the end of the tunnel, just like, we're
Yes.
so close.
I hope it's not a train, but I see a light.
Oh, God. Please don't let it be a train. Like, 2020 was bad enough. We don't need another bad year. Oh, man.
We're not gonna go too into deep talks about the vaccine or anything, but it does look promising so far, so we are excited about that. And hopefully we'll be able to record some of these sessions together. Like we were in the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, it's like I had a special mic and everything.
Yeah. Instead of safely socially distanced from our own homes instead.
Yeah.
So, but if you guys have seen other movies like this, please let us know and what you thought about them. If you've seen this movie, let us know what you thought about this movie and what they could have done better or what you really, really liked from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you have other suggestions or anything, please let us know. We are going to be announcing which live stream game we're doing next soon, so be on the lookout for that as well. And Alyssa, did you have anything else?
The only thing is, if you know someone that's on the spectrum, or if you are on the spectrum, and you watch this movie, let us know how realistic you think that they portrayed it. I know even, obviously even people on the spectrum have different experiences, but someone that can at least relate closer than we can or have more knowledge, I would love to know, because as far as I could tell, I thought that they did a really good job, but I could be very wrong.
It's hard for us to gauge when we don't have that much experience with it.
Yeah, so I would be really interested to know for sure.
Absolutely. So please, guys, let us know your thoughts and your feelings on this movie and others like it. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay swoopy. Bye.